Hi, I'm Frankie, and in this video, I'll share how you can create your first workflow in Microsoft Foundry. We'll start in the Microsoft Foundry homepage, where I have an existing project that I created for this demo. To start working on our workflows, we'll go over to the Build section. We'll see our existing agents that we'll be using for our workflow, where our goal is to create a YouTube title and description generator that then gets edited and then sent by email to ourselves. To get started, we'll go to Workflows. We'll see there's no workflows currently, and we'll create a blank workflow. Navigating around the workflow portal, we have our Build section where we build out and can visualize our workflow. Traces section where we can see traces of our workflow when it's in action. Evaluations to evaluate our workflow. A section to monitor how our workflow is being used. We can add notes to help people understand how our workflow is working, and leave it in our visual editor. We can also hide those notes if we don't want to see all of that additional information. We can add an automated trigger if we don't want to start this workflow with a chat message. We can change the visual of our workflow to go from horizontal to vertical. We can see our workflow with this visual editor. We can see it in YAML. We can see it in code. Note that this code example is just that. It's an example. It's not necessarily representation of your full workflow that you've created and built, whereas the YAML and the visualizer is specifically your workflow based on how it's built. Once we've added aspects to our workflow, we can preview it by running it in the chat window with a set chat window here off to the side, and we can even publish it so that it can go directly to Microsoft Teams or Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, getting started here on this workflow file, we have the Start section, which is where a user will create an initial prompt for the workflow. I'll add a new workflow action. This new workflow action, we have different sections here that we can add. We're looking at these sections. If I click New Node, we can see these. There's Invoke, where you can invoke a specific agent that is already built that you'll add in. There's different types of data transformations where you can set variable, reset the variable, parse variables, flows for if then else or loops. There's basic things to be able to send a message or ask a user a question, and you can also just end the conversation flow as well. Let's start with an Invoke agent, where we're going to add in a simple YouTube title generator agent. This action I'll call YT title gen for generator. I'll select my agent, my YouTube title generator. Then I have the option for what is the input message that is going to be given to this agent when it's ran. By default, it's the system last message. I can decide an output variable for the output of this agent to go to. I won't do that just yet. And I can also decide the next action that I want this agent to invoke. For now, we'll keep this simple. We won't add anything else for the output. Let's save this and show how this works. I'll call this my YouTube title description generator workflow. Now we can see our traces, evaluations, or monitor since we have saved our workflow. Let's see our workflow in action. This agent, if I click on this invoke agent, I can edit in the playground if I wanted to make changes to that specific agent. If I go to the playground, we'll see this agent is just an agent using GPT 4.1, and it has a list of instructions helping it to generate a specific YouTube title based on a topic that I give it. So going back to workflows, Let's preview this workflow. I'll click preview. This chat message pops up. Now let's test this out. I'll say something like, I'm creating a video on how to use Microsoft Foundry workflows. I'm going over step by step the process to create your workflow, human-in-the-loop capabilities at the end, and even send an email based on the output of using multiple agents. Can you help me create a title and description for this video? I'll send this. I'll see my YouTube title generator in progress. And I've asked my YouTube title agent to not generate a description, even if it's asked, since its goal is to generate titles only. And I can see the outputs of some title examples that it's generated for me to use. Now let's add in another action here. I'll add an Invoke agent. Let's add in the YouTube title. Let's add in the YouTube description generator. I can also give it the last message. If I save this, we can preview this and we'll see it now. We'll give the same system prompt. And this time we see there's some titles that I generated. I do see my YouTube title did generate a description, even though it wasn't supposed to. That's okay. The description was generated by the YouTube description agent. So this seems to be working. If I wanted to debug this, I could go into this debug section and see how each of these calls are working with the run steps and the actions that are being set. You can also see this in traces, where I can go to these conversation IDs and see how these are working. Something that is important as we do this is you can also see versions of your workflow as you build it. So right now we have a saved version with both our demo YouTube title generator and our demo YouTube description generator with our version 2. But if we wanted to go back to our first version, we could just go back to our first version up here, and now we have our older version. So if you wanted to roll back, you could do that. We can see a version history, and we can even delete current versions that we're on if we want to reduce the types of versions and the list of versions that we have. I'll go to the most recent version. Let's add in our YouTube title description editor. So now this is going to edit our titles and descriptions to try and create the best version. We'll call this YouTube title description edit action. Go back and add this one as well. YouTube description action. Now we can save this, and you can already see how this is getting quite long when I use it horizontally. So I'll click vertical since it's a bit easier to see. Now if we preview this, put in our same user message we used before. This time I should see a title, a description get generated, and then a edited version of the best title and description from our title description editor. So the best title it thinks we should use is this. Best description is this. I've also asked my editor to give me some alternative titles if I want to use that. Now right now the way this is working is that a user message comes in and the demo. Now right now the way this is working is that the demo YouTube title generator gets a message from the user. The output of this message is then the input to this demo YouTube title, YouTube description. So right now the way this is working is that there's a user prompt that comes into the title generator, and then the description generator gets the output from the title generator, and then the description editor gets the output from the description generator. Now this probably is not the most ideal workflow. We'd rather have the description generator and the title generator get the specific user prompt that is given from the start, and then the title and description editor can just get information from the output of the title generator and the output of the description generator, rather than the title description editor just getting the output from the description generator. To do this, to set this up, we'll implement variables. So at the start, when the user first sends a message, we're going to create user input as a variable. So we'll create a new variable. We'll call it local.userinput. And we'll set this variable to the system.lastMessage.text, which is the specific text for the previous message sent by the user. Now, for the YouTube title generator, we'll make the input our custom user input variable that we just set, along with our description generator. By doing this, our title generator and our description generator now will get the same user input message that's sent from the beginning. Let's also now add another set variable to create a variable that the title description editor will use to edit from. We'll call this YouTube title description output, and the value that we'll set to it is the YouTube title output and the YouTube description output. These are variables we'll need to create for the YouTube title and the YouTube description actions. So now with these names, let's create those. We'll take this agent's output message. We'll save it to that variable YouTube title output. Same with the description generator. We'll save the output to a new variable. Now the output from these two invoke agents are going to be sent to the specific output variable that we create. Our set variable that we have from our title generator and our description generator is now concatenating into a single message that will be used by our title description editor. It's called YouTube title description output. Let's make sure this is using that as the input. YouTube title description output. We'll save this, and now let's give this a try. Give it the same prompt we used before. The YouTube title generator does its thing. The description does its thing. And the editor also generates the best title, best description, this time using the variables that we set. We can see the actions that took place where these variables were set. Let's see the output of these agents. Now let's get more sophisticated with the human in the loop addition to this workflow. Let's start this by adding a section where I'll ask a question to the user. We'll call this action the question approve action. And we'll add in some info where we'll create some lines to create some breaks so we can more visually see the output from our question specifically, where we'll ask, do you approve of the title and description? And we'll ask it to type yes if you approve. We'll have the output from our YouTube title description editor, which we'll need to create this local variable in just a moment. And we'll also indicate to the user that they need to type yes to approve. So let's create this output variable for the user. We'll set this output message, create a new variable, and save that. Now this should output the details from our title description editor so that a user can see what is outputted. Let's give this a try. We'll save this. See our generator, our description, our editor. Looks like there was an issue with the question. Let's save the user response to a variable we'll call the approval input. Let's try this again. Our title will go, our description will go, our editor. And we see here our lines from our question. Do you approve the below title and description? Type yes, approve. And we see our YouTube description title editor output here, with also the end of our ask question to a user. So at this point, the user will be able to say yes or anything else, which we want to then finish approving this process, where we might email the new title and description to ourselves, or if we say anything other than yes, we'll go back to the start where the set variable can set our user message, which we will type in from our output of our question if it's not yes. And we'll go through the process again and ask the user for their approval. To create this conditional statement, we'll add in now an if then else. Where we'll say for the if statement is if the local input is yes, we'll move on. Or else, if it's not, we'll set a variable. And this variable we'll set is going to be the user input variable we start with. The variable we'll set it to is the YouTube title output, the YouTube description output, and the edited title description output, along with anything that we add after we decide not to approve. So if instead of typing yes, I say something like put the word orange inside of the title, then this would be added to the end of that context for the prompt that is going to get sent to the user input. So we'll say done for this. Then if we want to make this go back to the beginning, we'll use a go to action. Go to start. We'll have this go to the agent where we'll generate a title because it already has the user input. And so this will then run through our workflow again, and we'll always run through and continue to work through and go back unless we approve of the output as yes or just decide to stop the workflow entirely. Let's give this a try. We'll give it the same input. Now we're at our question where we're asked, do you approve? Let's not approve. Let's say add the word blue to the title. Now I'll see the else statement, set variable, go to get set, and now I see it's going through the workflow again. And now I have the best title, mastering blue, Microsoft Foundry workflows. I see some other alternative options where the word blue is used in some of these as well. So this is an example now of a human in the loop scenario that is going through if I chose not to approve. If we choose to approve, let's send a simple message that says, great, just to show this working. Have our editor, have our question, let's hit yes, and see it go through our if statement and send our message that says great. So now this is an example of if we did approve what the editor came up with for our best title and best description, then we continue with that output. Now for this output, let's add in our email agent by emailing this title and description to ourselves. So the way we'll do this is we'll come in and add another action where we'll set a variable. We'll make this a new variable called email prompt. And the value of this will be a concatenated message, so some text that just says send email to masonstark2111@outlook.com, which is just a dummy email that I have set up for demos. The subject should be new YouTube title and description, and the body of the email should be, which will be the outputted text from my YouTube edited title and description output. And we'll save that. Now let's add in our agent, invoke agent, and call this our email agent action. We'll select our email agent, We'll use our email prompt as the input message, and then we will save this. And for reference on how this email agent works, it's using a simple GPT 4.1 Nano model with instructions to send an email to a tool that I have set up with the OpenAPI custom tool, which is set up with an OpenAPI spec, which triggers a logic app that is behind API management in order to send an email. If you want to see how this works, you can see another video that I'll add here and in the description on how to set up a logic app to send an email. If you want to see how to set up an OpenAPI tool for an agent in Microsoft Foundry, let me know in the comments and I can create that as a future video. Now let's run through this, where first I will give it the prompt. I'll make it a small change, so we'll see it have to go back through the human in the loop scenario, and then I'll approve it after it goes through. Then we should see it email the output to ourselves. So I have the option to approve. I will choose to ask it to edit by saying, put the word best in the title. We'll see, go back through the workflow, keeping in mind the change I asked it to make. We see best title. Looks like best is not used there, but I guess it's in best. I think the edited version didn't want to use best, but let's try something else. Say add the word AI agents. That's technically a keyword because it's 2 words. We see AI agents in some of these titles. AI agents in the best title. So now that's added in there. We'll hit yes to approve this. Well, now we'll see it go through. The email agent is doing its thing. Email has been sent successfully. Final action says great. Let's check our email. We can see here an email that we got from our YouTube title agent with our AI agents, best title, description, and alternative titles in here. Our workflow is working and we can now publish it or continue to make changes as we see fit. I hope this video on how to create your first workflow in Microsoft Foundry was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I answer every comment to help as many people as I can. And if this video was helpful for you, I'd appreciate if you liked the video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.